AITAH for breaking up with my girlfriend because I felt overwhelmed and needed space the night. I realized something was wrong. Wasn't dramatic. Nothing exploded. No shouting, no slammed doors. No final argument would later point to as the moment everything shattered. It was just a small sound. A quiet knocking on my apartment door at 11:47 p.m. 3 soft taps, not urgent, not desperate, but familiar, so familiar that my chest tightened before I even stood up. When I opened the door, Emily was standing there with her jacket half-zipped, hair messy from the wind, eyes wide like she was holding back everything she hadn't been able to say earlier that day. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered. "Can I come in?" Nothing about her presence was alarming on its own, but something in me, something that had been building for months, felt like a stretched wire, finally hitting its limit. I stepped aside, letting her in, even as a quiet dread settled beneath my ribs. She dropped her bag on the couch like she lived there. For months now, she practically had. Every free hour, every spare night, every plan, every silence, I had learned to share all of it with her. Or rather, I had learned to give myself to her without noticing how small the space for me had become. She sat on the edge of the bed and looked at me as if expecting me to save her from something invisible. "Can we talk?" she asked. I sat beside her. "About what?" Her voice shook. "About us." My stomach dropped. She continued before I could speak. "I feel like you're pulling away. You don't text as fast. You don't call as much. You seem distracted." I stayed still, and "I know you've been stressed," she said, "but I don't want to lose you. So I came here, because I thought maybe if we talked, you'd tell me what's wrong." What was wrong? Everything and nothing. We hadn't fought. We hadn't fallen out of love. There wasn't another person. There was no betrayal, no cruelty. No lies, just exhaustion, a kind of pressure I couldn't describe, a heaviness that made breathing feel like a task. She took my hand. "Please don't shut me out. Just tell me what you need." Her touch wasn't painful. Her voice wasn't harsh. She wasn't unreasonable. She wasn't demanding something impossible. And yet all I felt was a quiet panic, like being trapped in a room with no windows. "I don't know," I said. "I just feel overwhelmed." Her face softened. "Then let me help. Let me be there for you." That was the moment I realized she didn't understand. Not because she didn't care, but because she cared so much that she didn't see how it suffocated me. "I need space," I said. "Just some time to breathe." She blinked slowly, like the words were drifting far over her head. "So what? You want a break?" The silence between us swelled. I knew what I had to say. I knew how much it would hurt. I knew it wasn't dramatic enough to justify how deeply she would feel the hurt. I think we should end things," I said. "At least for now." Her breath hitched, and in that tiny sound, I felt something inside me twist violently, urging me to take it back. But I didn't. She stood up abruptly. "You can't just decide that because you're overwhelmed." "I have to," I said softly. She stepped back like I was dangerous. "So you're breaking up with me?" "For needing space." "I'm breaking up with you because I don't know how to be myself when I'm with you," I replied. "I don't know how to exist without feeling like I'm disappointing you all the time." Her expression broke in a way I had never seen. "I never asked you to change." "You didn't have to," I said quietly. "I did it on my own." And that was the truth. I had shrunk myself. I had rearranged my days. I had swallowed things I should have said. I had adjusted to her expectations, her fears, her pace. And by the time I realized how heavy it all was, I could barely recognize the shape of my own life anymore. She grabbed her bag and stood by the door, trembling. "If you walk away now, I won't be here when you decide you want me back." I nodded. "I know." She stared at me silently, painfully, then left. The door clicked shut. The silence that followed didn't feel peaceful. It felt raw, jagged, like I'd torn off a piece of myself just to breathe again. The weeks after were strange. My friends told me I did the right thing. Her friends called me cruel. Some mutual acquaintances whispered that I was emotionally immature, afraid of commitment, unable to handle real love. And maybe they were right. Maybe every one of them was. Some nights I lay awake wondering if I had thrown away someone who genuinely loved me. Someone good, someone loyal, someone who had only wanted more of me because she believed she deserved it. But other nights, most nights, I slept better than I had in months. No sudden late-night visits. No constant stream of texts needing reassurance. No unspoken expectations pressing into every decision I made. Just quiet. Just space. Just myself. One evening, Weeks after the breakup, Emily sent me a final message. I'm not angry anymore, but I still don't understand why you couldn't just ask for time instead of ending everything. I typed a dozen responses before settling on the only one that felt honest. I needed space, but I knew you couldn't give it without breaking yourself. You loved me too tightly, and I realized I couldn't breathe inside that kind of love. She didn't respond, and that was the real end. Not the night she left, not the argument, not the silence after. The real end was the moment both of us finally understood that love can be real, devoted, sincere, and still not be the kind you can survive inside. Was I wrong? Was I selfish? Was I the villain of the story? Maybe, but I didn't regret choosing peace over drowning quietly in someone else's need for me. Sometimes walking away isn't an escape. Sometimes it's the only way to save yourself. The first month after the breakup passed in a way that didn't feel real, not painful, not peaceful, just muted. I went to work, I cooked, I went to the gym, I scrolled through meaningless videos late at night, but everything felt slightly out of focus, like my life had been filmed through glass. I thought the guilt would be the heaviest part. I was wrong. It was the quiet. Because for the first time in a long time, no one was depending on me emotionally every hour of the day. There were no long calls, no anxious check-ins, no sudden tears I needed to soothe. No I need to see you messages at midnight. At first the silence felt free. Then it began to feel like something else entirely. Without her weight on my shoulders, I had to face a truth I'd been avoiding for months. Maybe the pressure I'd blamed on her was actually coming from inside me. Some nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering, did I break up with her because I needed space? Or because I was afraid of what loving someone so much required from me? The question came back like a tide, slow but relentless. And then one evening, everything changed. It happened at the grocery store. I was grabbing a carton of eggs when I heard a soft voice behind me say my name. Not a question, not a call for attention, just a quiet, controlled recognition. I turned. Emily was standing there with a basket in her hand. She looked healthier, softer, not calmer exactly, but steadier. Her eyes met mine with a strength I didn't expect. We stood frozen for a moment. I didn't know you shop here, she said. I moved to this area a month ago, I replied. Needed a change. Her lips pressed together in a small, unreadable expression. I hope it's been good for you. It has, I said honestly. Quieter. She nodded slowly. Quiet can be good. Silence lingered between us. Not tense, not bitter, just full of things we had never said. How are you? I asked carefully. She didn't look away. Better than I expected. Something in my chest tightened, because she meant it. Then she added, I'm in therapy now. That caught me completely off guard. Oh, I didn't realize how much of myself I was pouring into you, she said, or how much of your space I was swallowing without noticing. My throat felt tight. She continued, my therapist says I attached too quickly, too intensely, and that I didn't know how to exist without depending on someone. I thought that was love. She paused. But it wasn't fair to you. I swallowed. Emily, I never meant to hurt you. You didn't, she said gently. You just left before I realized what I was doing. The honesty of that hit harder than anything she had ever said to me when we were together. I thought you hated me, I admitted. She shook her head. No, I hated the silence you left behind. I hated the absence. But that wasn't you. That was the hole I had carved out for myself around you. I looked down at the carton of eggs in my hand because meeting her gaze suddenly felt too intimate. Then she asked the question I didn't expect. Do you regret it? I looked up. Her expression wasn't confrontational. It wasn't accusatory. It was careful, open, and brave in a way that made something inside me unwind. Yes, I said quietly, and oh, her eyes flickered, but she didn't flinch. I regret how much it hurt you. I regret that I didn't know how to talk about what I was feeling. I regret that I didn't try harder before I walked away. She inhaled slowly, absorbing every word. But, I added, I don't regret choosing space. I was drowning, and I didn't know how to tell you without breaking you. She nodded once. Not in agreement, more in understanding. I wasn't ready to hear it then, she said. I was too scared of losing you. We stood in the middle of the aisle, two broken halves that didn't quite fit together anymore, but somehow still mirrored each other. Then she said something soft, almost fragile. You know I don't blame you. Not anymore. That sentence landed like a weight being lifted off my chest. But, she continued, I need to ask you something. Anything. If things were different, if we had handled it better, do you think we would have lasted? The question wasn't hypothetical. It was a wound reopening. It was a truth neither of us had dared to press on. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. We were too much for each other, I said. You loved me too tightly, and I kept shrinking to make space for that love. A breath. But if we'd both been healthier, if you had your space and I had mine. I swallowed. Yeah, I think we could have lasted. Her eyes shone not with tears, but with understanding. I think so too, she whispered. For the first time since our breakup, I felt a strange peace settle between us. Not reconciliation, not rekindling, not regret, just clarity. She gave a small, sad smile. I should go. My ice cream is melting. I almost laughed, yeah, and my eggs are getting warm. We walked past each other slowly. Neither of us turned around immediately, but when I reached the end of the aisle, I glanced back. She was looking too, and this time it didn't hurt. It felt finished. Not in a tragic way, not in a dramatic way, but in the way that people end a chapter knowing it mattered, even if it didn't last. That night, I sat on my balcony with a cup of tea, thinking about everything about her, about myself, about the space I finally had. And for the first time, the space didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. It felt necessary. It felt like the place where something new could begin, not with her, not out of guilt or fear, but with the version of myself I'd been too overwhelmed to notice. Was I the villain? Was I the coward? Was I the one who caused the pain? Maybe a bit of all three. But for the first time in months, I didn't need an answer. I just needed the quiet. And now, I finally had it. I didn't go home after leaving her apartment. I wandered, at first through the busy streets, just another face in the blur of people moving with purpose. Then through quieter places, closed parks, empty intersections, silent residential blocks where only porch lights stayed awake. Everything felt too loud inside my head and too quiet outside it. I kept replaying the moment I shut her door behind me, the look on her face, the way her fingers closed around nothing as if she'd tried to catch my sleeve but changed her mind. I wondered whether she would break down the second I left or whether she'd stay frozen for hours. And although I'd told myself I needed distance, the guilt clung to me like humidity. When I finally got home, my phone was already filling up. 12 missed calls, 9 messages, each one shorter then sharper, then one that wasn't angry or pleading, just a single line. Why didn't you tell me you were drowning? I didn't respond. Not because I didn't want to. I just didn't have the strength to explain what I didn't fully understand myself. For the next 3 days, I tried to build some kind of routine. I worked, ate, slept in pieces. I muted her notifications, then unmuted them, then muted them again. My head kept cycling through conflicting truths. I cared about her. I was suffocating. I wanted to talk. I couldn't talk. Every contradiction pulled at me from opposite directions, and I couldn't tell what was real desire and what was fear. On the 4th day, I saw her waiting outside my building. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She looked exhausted in a way that made me feel worse than tears ever could. She took a half step forward when she saw me, then stopped as if she was giving me a choice. Can we talk? She asked quietly. I nodded and followed her to a small bench near the entrance. For a while, neither of us spoke. She sat on the far edge, hands folded as if she was trying not to fidget. I'm not here to convince you to come back, she finally said. I need to know what I missed. I need to understand. I inhaled slowly, my chest tight. One didn't leave because I stopped caring, I said. I left because I felt like I couldn't breathe anymore. Everything was so constant, your texts, your calls, the pressure to always be emotionally present. I didn't know how to tell you without hurting you. Her jaw tensed, but she nodded. I know I get intense. I know I lean too hard sometimes. I just thought that meant we were close. I thought so too, but I lost myself in it, and I didn't know how to ask for space without feeling like I was abandoning you. She looked down at the pavement. Is that why you broke up with me? I hesitated, partly, and partly because I was scared. I thought if I didn't take a step back, I'd explode and ruin everything anyway. A long silence settled between us. She ran her thumb across her palms, thinking. You could have told me, she said. I would have listened. I would have backed off. I'm not saying you're wrong for needing space. I'm saying it didn't have to end this way. Her voice didn't shake, but something in it was frayed. It made me feel like I was seeing the damage I'd done all at once. I know, I said. I should have said something earlier. She took a slow breath. So what now? Are you done with us? The question didn't come out desperate, just tired, worn down by 4 days of uncertainty and years of bad communication patterns. Neither of us had noticed until they snapped. I don't know, I admitted. I'm not ready to jump back into anything, but I'm not closing the door forever. Something softened in her expression, not hope, exactly, but relief that the finality she feared wasn't absolute. I can give you space, she said. Real space. Not the kind where I say I will and then panic. I need clarity. If you ever feel ready to talk again, really talk, will you tell me? I nodded, yes, I will. She stood up slowly. Okay, then I'll go. But she didn't leave immediately. She hesitated as though trying to memorize the moment. Then she gave a small nod, turned around, and walked down the street without looking back. I sat on the bench long after she disappeared from view, feeling something shift inside me. Not closure, not regret. Something between them, like the first exhale after holding your breath too long. For the first time in weeks, the air felt slightly less heavy. 2 weeks passed before either of us reached out. During that time, I finally let myself stop reacting and start reflecting. Without constant messages, without the pressure to respond perfectly, I realized something I hadn't seen clearly before. I hadn't been overwhelmed just because she was intense. I'd been overwhelmed because I didn't know how to set boundaries. I had kept saying yes while feeling no, agreeing while tightening inside, giving reassurance while craving quiet. I wasn't a victim of her attention. I was a participant in the silence between us. When I recognized that, the confusion settled into something more honest. One evening, as the sun set behind my building and the sky turned a slow, dull orange, I texted her, "If you're open to talking, I am too. No pressure." 10 minutes later, she replied, "Okay, I'd like that." We met at a small cafe on the edge of town, the kind of place where the lights are soft and the conversation's low. She arrived wearing a jacket I'd given her months ago. I didn't know whether that meant something or whether she'd simply grabbed it out of habit. I didn't ask. We sat down, not across from each other, but at a corner table where we could angle our bodies slightly toward the same direction. It made things feel less confrontational. This time, I spoke first. "I broke up with you because I panicked," I said. "I felt trapped, but not by you, by the way. I didn't know how to talk to you. I want to own that." She listened quietly, her eyes steady. "I'm glad you're saying it. I did blame myself at first. A lot. But then I realized something too. I wasn't giving you space because I thought space meant losing connection. I was wrong. You're allowed to breathe without it being a threat. That means more than you know," I said softly. She folded her hands. "So what now? Are we trying again? Or trying to say goodbye the right way?" I looked at her, really looked at the way she was calmer now, less desperate, more grounded. Maybe because she'd had time to think too. Maybe because she wasn't trying to chase me, nor waiting to be chased. "We're not the same people we were a month ago," I said, "and that's a good thing. I don't want to rush back into a relationship just to repeat old patterns. But I also don't want to end things out of fear." Her eyes softened. "Me neither. So," I continued, "I want to take things slowly, not as a couple, not as strangers, something in between. We can talk, meet, understand each other again. And if it leads somewhere, it leads somewhere. If it doesn't, well, at least know we didn't run from the hard parts." She exhaled a long, steady breath like she'd been holding it for days. "I can do slow," she said. We walked home together afterward, not holding hands, not avoiding each other either. The silence between us wasn't tense anymore. It was open. Spacious. Enough room for both of us to exist without shrinking. At the entrance to my building, she paused. "You weren't the villain for needing space," she said, "and I wasn't the villain for wanting closeness. We just didn't understand each other." "I know," I replied, "but we can now." And for the first time, it felt true. She gave a small nod, then turned and walked into the night. I watched her go, not with panic or guilt, but with a quiet certainty that whatever came next, together or apart, it would be built on honesty instead of fear. That was enough. A real ending. Not perfect, not dramatic, just honest. Exactly what we'd both been missing.